Here we go.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 53 of CMD Towers, Brews, and Built. I'm Mr. Combo number 5, and my fellow host once confused ambioid changeling for Mr. Bubbles, BigTuck.
The Bubs, he's the best.
It's a little bitty baby cat.
Hey, shapeshifters and changelings? Question mark. Not bad.
Not
no,
bad.
happy to be here. I got to talk. We just got done recording the first time I ever saw and or talked to Mr. T, the command tower, the CMD tower. Damn it, the CMD tower himself, slipping right back into bad habits. But no, it's crazy. We've been here. This is nuts. It's episode 53. I think we thought we'd make it to like 15 and then get banned from podcasting.
If I do recall, I would say the initial reaction was, we're going to try it for like 5 episodes and see
what happens. Right. But actually, so to celebrate, I found a new brewery here in Shawnee that's pretty incredible.
Go to hell.
It's called,
Go to hell.
It's called Rock Creek Brewing. And
Shawnee bullshit. That's admission, my man.
It is.
Mission. You get the town
delicious. Right. It's they really know what they're doing there. So excited to get them some time. But I'm doing great, Mr. Combo. How are you, sir?
Well, I was doing great until you brought up effing Rock Creek Brewing.
In the wrong town.
We brought this up before. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yes, I did.
Interesting.
No, I'm doing good. It's this is I work for a major corporation, and so they divide the year into like halves. Right. And so this is the first week of our new half. Okay. And we did a massive reorganization across all of North America.
Right. I remember you saying that.
So it's been a whirlwind week. I've been busier than I've ever been, not doing RFPs, which would at least mean I could be making money. It's just been account shifting, new I got like new support people, so it's been a whirlwind. And so, I actually took some time today. Me and Godfather Davis actually went and played, I guess, technically 12 rounds of disc golf.
12 rounds of disc golf.
12 holes, yes. It was weird because we get there, we didn't initially know where 1 was, so it was like, F it, we'll just start on 7. So we went 7, 8... and then what we thought was 9, but we couldn't actually figure out what was 9. Turns out, did you guys know this? 7 and 9 is the same basket.
Yes, yeah, they redid it in the last like 6 months. So that's
so janky. That. Yeah.
No, wait,
so janky.
I have a question. Who is talking right now? Who is this?
I don't know. It's someone that should know their place. They should know their effing place. But thanks for tuning into the episode. And as always, with that Manolith commentary from Rich Chaos Records Studio, it's Squee McGee.
Oh, it's Squee.
Well, I got to bring it up. Yeah, it's Squee. Hello, I'm Squee McGee. Nice to be here. Happy to meet all of you. Okay. This is a podcast that we do that I occasionally speak on. I have 1 foil Manolith from 1 J Besh that going into a Kiri tonight. Just got here. Very excited. Godfather dropped it off on delivery from Mr. Combo, from J Besh. And J Besh, by the way, you sleeved it 3 times. Amazing.
Thank God.
And by the way, I give it to the Godfather, and he's like, so is he gonna know what this is? And I'm like, yeah, it's like this really bad mana rock that he thinks is actually good. And one of our patrons gave him a foil one. And so he puts it in his car. I kid you not, like 45 minutes later, he brings it up again. He's like, so what's the deal with this mana list? I'm like, see, here's the thing. It's a card that can tap for mana that literally has at least 12 other printings that are better than it and probably the same dollar value.
No shorter than a Baker's Dozen's replacements in the same range. But here we are, a Squeeze got a lift.
All the gratitude in the world for the card that you sent me that the postage stamp probably cost more than the card. I appreciate that.
The only thing I'll say, Besh, and like I have a tip of the hat in terms of sending this, I have a wag of the finger, not a signature, not a picture of yourself, nothing, just a flat thing. I mean,
hey. I wouldn't sully a manolith with somebody's dirty signature.
It has to be unsullied. Good Lord.
Yeah, I don't want an artist signature. I don't want a person's signature. I don't want anything. I don't want a cat to step on it. I'm glad it was triple sleeved. It's in pristine condition. I'm going to get it.
What a slaughter.
What if I were to send this in to PSA to get rated?
To get graded.
Please do. Please do. For the love of Christ. That'd be the best meme ever.
It's not a bad idea.
I think I might do that.
Besh actually messaged me on our Discord and said, hey, what's your address? I have a foil manolith I'd like to send Squee. And I was like, oh, that's super nice of you. And he's like, yeah, I'm never going to use it. It's just going to sit in my bowl. So I figured I'd give it to him.
Can't sell it. Can't use it. Time to give it away.
Well, Besh,
couldn't give it away until now.
In a very thick plastic case.
No one wanted it.
I'm just giving it a quick eyeball test here. If I do send it in to get graded, Squeeze probably saying looks like maybe a 8.5 to a 9.5. So I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Let's see what the good people at whatever does this thing that you're sending it into have to say about it.
They're gonna get the card and they're gonna be like, "What? You paid what to have us grade this?"
Yeah, I think a PSA cost is like $65.
Oh yeah, it is. It's
well worth it for a manolith.
It's not cheap at all. For those buying cards, just so you know, if you're buying a card that's PSA rated, you built in $65 to that cost. Enjoy.
Good gravy.
Well, if you guys would like to know ways to help Squee pay to get this manolith graded by PSA
please.
And support the rest of the CMD Tower team with the content we put out, head over to our sponsor, Level 1 Game Shop. They do sell all the Magic accessories you need. They also sell board games. They sell the CMD Tower playmat and sleeves. And they also do have a TCG player for all your singles. And they're pretty competitive on the price. If you guys would actually like to help us out financially to actually help pay for that PSA grading, you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/CMD Tower. We have 4 different pledge levels, and rewards vary from just getting access to our Discord to getting your own CMD Tower playmat and sleeves to even getting a Squee McGee sitting tight coin. But if you can't help us,
beautiful.
If you can't help us financially, just share the content you're listening or watching to, because every little bit of interaction from the collective does help. And of course, shout out to Pink Royal. Don't know how long this bit needs to keep going, but it's 53 episodes in and we're still doing it. I don't think they care anymore.
It's not a retired bit. It's definitely not retired yet.
No. And of course, stay tuned till the end so you guys can get details on how you can win that sweet land kit from Level 1. So Brews and Builds is our deck tech series. Since we conquered our path to 32, we have moved on to the endless themes that EDH can bring us. Each month will be a new theme, and we correlate how these decks are constructed similar to how a beer is brewed. So we broke it down into 4 different categories. The first one's rampant setting your board state. That's the grain build.
Yes, and grains are the foundation of every beer. They include both base malts and specialty malts, usually about a 60-40 ratio. This helps with the color, the taste, and most importantly, the alcohol content of said beer. Decks always need ways to grow, stabilize, and ramp into your bigger threats, and just like a grain profile, they're usually a mix of staples and specialty cards.
And then the next thing is going to be, how does your board interact with the rest of the board? That's hops.
And hops give the beer its patented bitterness and herbal floral flavors. They grow in a variety of strands and help distinguish subcategories like this 1s and 0s New England IPA, brewed with Citra, Sultana, and Ella hops. Our hop choices help clear and interact with the board so your deck can actually do it at once.
And then the next is going to be, how does your deck actually close out, win games, which this deck really doesn't have a path to do. We call that yeast.
And yeast are living microorganisms that eat the sugar from the grain and poop out alcohol and CO2. It adds the alcohol content and the carbonation. Without yeast, you'd be drinking flat sugar water. And without yeast cards, your deck wouldn't meet the goal of actually winning the game.
And then lastly, we have shenanigans, pet cards, just, weird things that maybe fit the deck, maybe they don't. We call that spice.
It's not every beer has them, but spices and other additives help separate a normal stock beer from a specialty one. It could be the pepper that turns a stout into a jalapeno stout, or the addition of hops that turn an IPA into a double IPA. Not every deck has something that makes it pop, but if it does, this is where we generally talk about it.
And then to wrap up the episode, we do have a bottle capping. These are going to be BigTuck's and I's cuts and recommendations to the deck that are under $5, under 50, and a personal recommendation with no budget. The only restriction is we can't do mana-only lands. So without further ado, let's get brewing. This month is going to be the month of decks that don't really need the commanders.
Yes.
Ones that function just fine without them. So we're kicking it off with the mysterious First Sliver. This is my 5-color sliver deck.
It's very mysterious what this deck does, let me tell you.
Well, we'll get to that. So the way that this deck kind of came into fruition, I think this was the 3rd deck I ever built.
Okay.
Built it while I still lived in Memphis. And it was a Sliver Queen deck to start. Mm-hmm. And it did Sliver Queen things.
Yes.
Nothing fancy there. Did Sliver Queen stuff. And it was actually a pretty decent deck. The mana base, it didn't have Aber Duels, but it had all the shocks, it had all the fetches.
Right.
It had all the check lands. So
and we'll get into this. Where did they all go?
Yeah, so I stripped him out of this deck and put him into other decks I actually like to play. So now the deck is filled with tap lands, which definitely lowered its power level. And so I did that for many, many years, but I would never play my Sliver deck. I still don't play my Sliver deck.
Right.
But, of course, my favorite set, Modern Horizons, I own stock in that set.
You struck out big. This deck struck out big in that set.
Yeah. And so I ended up seeing the First Sliver. And I was like, oh, that's super cool. Let's make that the commander and put Sliver Queen in the 99. Before we get it further into the story, BigTuck, what does the First Sliver even do?
You would do this to me. All right, here we go. First Sliver, Legendary Creature Sliver 7/7, which I think all of them are. It costs Wooburg. It's a mythic. And it has Cascade. So when you Cascade, you cast a spell, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card that costs less. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. May is kind of relevant. Not in this deck, but in other ones. Put the exiled card on the bottom of your library in a random order. Sliver spells you cast have Cascade.
Yeah, so I thought it would be a cool thing, like a Sliver Queen is just so narrow. Mm-hmm. Oh, I have 2 mana, I'm going to make a Sliver, and that's kind of it. For Sliver, I was like, oh, I could actually get so much value, I could do all these things. Well, let me tell you guys, it does nothing for this deck. And as you go through the list, you'll realize that all the cards in this deck do nothing with the First Sliver other than the fact that they are slivers. And I think this kind of goes into our MTG Action 4 that we just had come out on Tuesday, where we talk about, I think one of the questions was, and I had misunderstood at the time, to where BigTuck was like, hey, when you come to a table or your meta, if you have a casual meta, do you like depower down a deck? He meant go grab a different deck. I almost feel like subconsciously I accidentally depowered this deck by making the First Sliver the commander instead of leaving Sliver Queen. So the deck is way worse now. I'm really hoping we can give it some bug spray and kill this thing, and then maybe lay down some roach pellets and grow anew. BigTuck, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think the favorite part of this deck is when Billy Baldwin takes Sharon Stone up against a wall in like the biblical sense, and then if I recall correctly, your old pal Tommy Bergeron, who I think is in like some Nolan movies, he's like creeping off in the distance. So
I have no idea these references.
Oh, sorry. That's Sliver the movie. We're talking about Sliver the deck. My apologies.
Wow.
It's an oft-forgotten erotic thriller. I'm not. So I completely agree with you that I think I'm not. So I'll get out of it. I'm not a huge fan of Sliver decks. I think they're all kind of similar in scope. They kind of just play slivers. I think it's very interesting though that this is kind of, I think this is a lot of times of like Commander's first tribal decks. A lot of people I know, they build their Sliver deck within their first 5 decks they created, right? Sure. Just because it's like cool, and like we all grew up playing with slivers when we were younger, right? They're kind of this like mythological meta beast of the thing. Question I have for you is, do you think that you would, knowing what you know now, if you didn't have a Sliver deck now that you already invested this time, energy, and resources into, do you think you would still build one or be like incentivized to build one?
No.
Yeah. And like so do you agree with me that it's kind of like this is like baby's first tribal deck to some extent, right? Where it's like Command Tower is like BigTuck baby's first website, sort of, right? Damn it, CMD Tower. Get together, BigTuck. What the hell? I was too wrapped up in that movie ref.
So here's the thing. For me, when I built my Sliver deck years ago, Sliver Queen was my commander.
Right.
I got her for like $30 or $20. Well, now she's $100 card.
Right.
So I think the cost to entry for slivers now has gone up so dramatically that now it's like, I want to do my first, baby gots, tribal. It's like, oh, I'll just get Morphon and do Sliver deck. I think you can still do a Sliver deck. It's just now it's not really a Sliver deck. It's like, oh, I'm just going to grab this generic good stuff tribal commander, Morphon, and I'll have slivers in the deck. Because I want to do it. I do think slivers have the best synergy of all cards. They
creatures
are one of the creatures. They have I think they're one of the only creature types to be consistent across all 5 colors.
Yep.
And they universally are hated when they hit the table.
Agreed.
So, getting to the deck tech, though.
Yes.
Did you see my CMC?
Is that right? I mean, I looked at it. It's all 2s, right? Like, it's all 2s.
Yeah, I was shocked. Yeah. It's a 279 for those playing,
which is nuts. Game. And you don't run a lot of like super hyper efficient ramp, right? That usually gets your CMC down. And I think that's so. What's interesting with that is I think that's what's really interesting with the first sliver, where like slivers really, they're only go wide, right? Like you want efficient slivers that have really good abilities tacked onto them, and a bunch of them. So like in effect, I think the first sliver looks good to have like this low CMC, right? Because you're gonna like be able to cast maybe 1 or 2 slivers a turn. But the problem is that like there's this giant jump between like the slivers that are like impactful early game are like the 1s and 2s, but then the late game ones are like 5, 6, 7. And when you're like getting 2 triggers off of sliver casting for the cascade, and they're only like 2 or 3 mana, you're gonna probably whiff a handful of times, right?
I've whiffed a lot when I've done first sliver. Yeah, I maybe get 1, and what usually happens, because like BigTuck talked about, my deck is disproportionate with 2s and 1 drops. Usually it's like I cast a 5-drop sliver and I get a 2-drop, and it's like, oh, great. And then it's like maybe I get a 1-drop sliver, or I'll hit a 1-drop instant or sorcery that I didn't even want at that time. You can probably guess what those are. So yeah, and you know what? It would be very easy for me to just put the Sliver Queen back and then put I think first sliver would be great in the 99.
I agree.
But I'm hoping after today's conversation, I'm going to make the decision of, do we have a clear path to where first sliver actually makes better sense for the deck? Or does the deck just need to go back to being a Sliver Queen deck? Yeah.
I agree with all that. So, and also your land distribution's a little off, but you also are effectively running this on, I think, by a country mile, your cheapest land bill. Well,
I mean, I do have all the fetches.
That's true, and there's a couple of ones we might get into. Spoiler alert! But overall, you don't have any Everduels. You don't have any more of the shock land. So
I'm not wasting that on this.
Yeah, but you have a good point there. So, but you are. It's so funny where you're like I think you do run all of the fetches, but you barely run any of the 2 color lands. So it's like, all right, well, I'm just going to crack this Marsh Flats and go get a Plains, I suppose. Pass, turn 1.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, well, let's dive into that Rampant Grain build. I'm going to start off with, there's 2 copies of this card. They both, in essence, do the same thing, but this one is better if your opponent is a Sliver player.
Oh, hold on.
We're talking about Mana Weft Sliver.
Okay, I'm doing the other one, Gemhide Sliver.
Okay, we'll just do these simultaneously. Yes. So they both, in essence, cost a colorless green. Right. They're both 1/1s, and they both say that all your slivers can tap for any color of mana to their mana pool. But Tuck, what's the key difference between the 2?
So I didn't even notice this until you brought it up. I just thought they were functional reprints. Gemhide Sliver is all slivers tap for this, whereas the other one, Mana Weft, is slivers you control, which is interesting. And I just now realized that. Hold on. Okay, so what I want to say is I have only chosen the original art slivers. None of these nonsensical bullshit Predator knockoff reprints that came out in Magic, whatever that is. I'm a Sliver purist, and that's interesting. However, after all my years of Magic and playing and hating slivers, I just now realized the new slivers, the functional reprints, just say slivers you control, which is very
so basically, whenever that break happened with Magic,
right?
With slivers, I mean, and that probably would have been around, I guess, like the mid 2000s. I would assume.
Yeah, because all those slivers I think came out in 2014.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so like whenever that sliver break happened, guys, the pre-break, it used to just say all slivers have this ability. So even if your opponents have a sliver, or something that we actually do see fairly often, changelings would be able to get those effects. They basically post that little break or hiatus. Now the slivers say sliver creatures you control, so that way your opponents can't get the effects as well.
Right.
So yes, you are right. They are almost identical. But there's a reason that, oh no, they're even only, I mean, like, Mana Weft is $2 and Gem Hide's $1.80. Huh. I was going to say there's a reason that Mana Weft's probably a lot more expensive.
That's the other thing that's crazy about slivers is they're like kind of pricey just to get like the base model. You know what I mean? Like just the ones that you need. I mean, this is obviously, I think we can talk about, like, a lot of these slivers are pretty straightforward, but I think like there's ones that are like must-haves, and I think in the slivers deck these are both must-haves.
100%.
Right?
No
and
argument.
then so I'm going to reference him twice. Some psychopath named Single Aaron, he runs Gemhide Sliver in his 5-color decks. Because he's like, it's a good mana dork. And I'm like, I can give you 100 ones better. And he's like, I don't care. I'm from Boston.
Wait, does he also run Manolith in that deck too?
No, he does not. He's better than that, but I guess not by much.
Fair enough. Well, Tuck, that was your first one. What is your next card?
So I just want to talk about this because, I mean, the thing I think that's really cool about slivers is, like, A, the mythology behind them is really interesting, and B, like, I think that there's some cards that are, like, I don't know how to describe it. They're just kind of like, they're really cool, but like also kind of terrifying about slivers, right? Because they were just this like mindless automaton. They're pretty much like the Borg for all you Star Trek nerds out there. And also, second Forthos nerds. Here we are.
And yourself.
So I actually want to talk about a land, one of the best lands in the deck.
Yep. We're talking about it together. 3, 2, 1.
Sliver Hive. So I'll read the outside of the card, and you have to read the inside of it. Okay, Sliver Hive is a land. It's a rare. That's from M15 and costs $8. Yeah.
I hate you. And it basically has 3 effects. You can tap it to add a colorless for any spell. You can tap it to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, and you can only use that for sliver spells. And then you can pay 5 colorless tap, put a 1/1 sliver token on the battlefield, but you can only activate that if you already control the sliver. Which I do think that's some interesting tech that they put in there, to where you can't just play this, just make slivers to make slivers. You have to be in a sliver deck to do
this. This can't just be your commander, right? This one card. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's really I think so. I remember playing this deck before when you were running this deck and you happened to top deck Sliver Queen, and that was the best card you played the entire game, right? And I think what's interesting and like where it's easy to see this stuff and be like, okay, 5 mana for a 1/1, sure. But in reality, that 5 mana is for a 1/1 +1/+1 plus flying plus death strike plus whatever the case may be, right? All the eternal abilities.
Some ETB effects.
Yes, exactly, right? So I think that's like where this is really interesting, because not only is it like it's 5 mana for a 1/1 at the worst case scenario, this is a 5 mana for a chump blocker to block anything that's not flying. Right?
Yeah.
That's the worst. At the best case, the upside of this is so good where even if you have this on the battlefield and you have an empty hand, you're still able to do stuff every turn, right? Now, I think the big thing that you also agree is like this deck doesn't do great against board wipes.
Yes, but we'll get to that in the hop section.
Ooh, okay.
Do have some tech for that, but no, you hit everything on the head with it. I think this is you have to have this if you're running slivers. It just doesn't make sense why you wouldn't. It's a second, basically a functional reprint of Command Tower, but with the upside of you could make sliver creature tokens, but you pointed out the board wipes. It sucks if you get board wiped, and this is like your thing because you can't make any slivers. You're just kind of stuck,
right?
So,
but it's so good, and like I think this is again where like slivers to your point kind of has this weird barrier of entry of this. You need this card to make a slivers deck work, and you're just like, okay, I'm out $8 guaranteed, and this is the only deck outside of Misform Ultimus that I'll ever run it in.
Exactly. All right. Well, my last one is an old school sliver, so it does say all slivers.
Yeah.
And the thing that you'll notice if you play against a sliver deck, or if you are the sliver deck, is that they get targeted a lot. Not so much board wipes. Board wipes will happen when it gets out of control, but people can't board wipe every turn because then they would never develop their board state. Right. So it's a lot of targeted removal. This card at least gives you some sort of benefit when you get targeted. Opaline Sliver.
Yeah.
This is colorless Azorius, which is white and blue. Creature Sliver 2/2. All slivers have, whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell an opponent controls, you may draw a card. Very simple.
Very good.
But the thing that you're with I feel like with a First Sliver deck is you can't just run the slivers in your hand, cascade out, and then start top decking. Because then you're not getting the benefit of the cascading. Your commander's literally worthless.
Right. Yep.
So at least with this, when you have your First Sliver out, I'm going to Swords to Plowshare that. Cool, I draw a card. I'm going to murder this because that's the best removal spell in all of Magic. Cool, I'll draw a card. You could even go as far as if your opponents wanted to enchant one of your slivers, like with my Goat deck. Hey, you can't attack or block me. Hey, I'll draw a card.
Yeah, Pacifism sees it. D-Sphere, because even like the Tension Sphere will tag it. So, look at this tech. All right, so if and when you go back to Sliver Queen as the commander, which we all agree will happen, imagine this: you have a bunch of tokens, and someone's like, "Haha, I'm gonna D-Sphere all your tokens," and then you're like, "Haha, I'm gonna draw 10 cards." Now who's the asshole? That is a good one. And I think, so do you ever...
has there ever been a time?
Yeah, exactly. Has there been a time where I have never, in all the years of playing and all the Sliver decks I've played against, I have never, except for once, which was intentional, see 2 Sliver decks or 2 Morphling decks come up upon each other.
I think I might have ran into one Sliver deck when I was in Memphis. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, never got so
you never see it. The weird thing is that it is such I think it's the #1 most popular tribe.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yet you never see the decks.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Everyone's always got one.
You will see. You'll see goblins, dragons, vampires, and elves before you see a Sliver deck.
100%. Maybe some allies thrown in there. JK.
You can see all of those before you see a Sliver deck consecutively.
All right, well, BigTuck, what's your last one?
So you run all of these in the deck, which I think are great, and I think this one is one that's criminally underplayed. So we're talking about the uncommon legendary artifact cycle from Amonkhet, and we're going to talk real quick about Hazoret's Monument. So
I'm so close to cutting these guys.
You think so? It's right on the cusp. I
read the card and I'll let you. Yeah.
So it says. It's an uncommon. You have the foil, which is going to put you back a whole $1.30. So watch out. Red creature spells you cast have 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may just discard a card. If you do, draw a card. So you have all 5 of these in here, and I think this might be the only one I'm talking about. And to your point, I don't think they're all created equal.
Yes.
So I think this is one of the ones that is actually worth keeping in for you, just to be able to filter out your hand a little bit, right? It's a May ability. If you're stuck with lands, you're going to be casting these spells. Bin them. When we get to the bottle capping, I got a couple ways that might be able to help you out with that problem as well. And I think I wanted to bring this up because, like I said, I think all of these are decent. I think some of them are really good situationally. For example, I think this personally is underplayed in a lot of Boros and a lot of mono red creature decks because it is that like bizarro card draw, you know what I mean? And it's also a pseudo ramp depending on who your commander is and all that stuff. So you have all 5 of these in here, and it's also difficult because you have your slivers are coming from all angles and all parts of the color pie.
Yeah, so my first thought on the cycle, the only reason I have all 5 of these in foil is I initially got them for my Sisei deck.
Oh, sure.
And I was like, that's a terrible card. That's just a waste. So let's pitch that to the trash. Second comment, I am part of that group that thinks that the looting effect is not my favorite kind of card draw because then I'm also throwing away cards.
Sure.
And in decks that can't use the graveyard as a second hand or as a resource, that just is like, well, what if I needed that Wrath of God later on in the game?
Right. Yeah, fair point.
Lastly, with this deck specifically, I think in theory, just like the Sisei one, it's good to have all 5 of these in here. But then you start to look at a bunch of the slivers, and a lot of them are like either just a single color, right, like no colorless, or it's 2 colors and no colorless.
Right.
So Or I have a bunch of the Sliver Lords. They're just 5 colors and no colorless. Yeah. So it's like I'm not actually getting any type of ramp out of it. Yes, I could get the casted. I could loot. And so once again, I think I had the non-foils in here, and I never play this deck, so I don't get to see it that often. And so I think I was just like, well, let me put the foils in. But I think it is one that
I can see it.
Whatever I do with the deck, I may end up cutting certain ones, and like you said, they're not all created equal. Maybe leaving in the better ones to where even if I don't get the mana reduction, I still love the effect.
Yes, agreed. I agree with you 100% there.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up the Rampant Green build. Now we're going to head over to the Board State and Hot profile, and BigTuck, kick us off. What's your first card?
I'm talking about, in my opinion, the best sliver that has ever been printed. Put it down, write it up. This is the sliver that you want to have. This is the sliver that you like to have on your opening hand. This is the sliver that you like to have on the last hand of the game and everyone in between. We are talking about Chub Boy, Gale Rider Sliver. This is the best sliver ever printed for a myriad of reasons. Number one, Gale Rider Sliver is a rare that costs $6. So again, we're at $20 already just for the barrier of entry to get a good sliver stack. Good to know. And it's a rare from M14 as well. It's a 1/1. It actually looks like the old sliver a little bit, which I like. And I'm going to try this real quick. Masters of Adaption, Gale Riders serve multiple purposes useful to the hive. When they're not patrolling their territories, their majestic swings serve to circulate cool air through the vast hive chambers. And the weird part here is
they're like
bottom,
air conditioners.
It also says, "I'm coming for you, Jimmy," which I thought was weird to see on that card. And then more importantly, it's a 1-drop. Sliver creatures you control have flying. It's insane. So again, I think flying obviously is really good and limited. I think flying something that we're starting, or maybe, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people don't look at flying as how powerful it is, even in Commander, how just that one semblance of evasion is going to push you over the edge so much, right? And since this is a 1/1 for 1, you're already hitting your curve. And again, if this was just enchantment that said, choose a creature type, imagine this was an enchantment, right? For 2 blue. Or a colorless and a blue, and it said, choose a creature type, all creatures you control of that chosen type gain flying.
Oh, it'd be like a $20 card.
Right? Exactly. So, like, the fact that I think a lot of people will look at this and be like, okay, it's only good early game or whatever. You're wrong, for starters. But in reality, this is also like your Alpha Strike material, right? If you get into it, if you cascade into it, all that stuff. And what's interesting about this is that this card actually sees, like, fringe play in decks like Eureka that just want as many 1/1s that have flying as possible. Since it's the new sliver, it also has slivers creatures you control have flying too, which is just icing on the cake.
Yeah, no, I think you hit everything on there. And I think some people might look at this card and say, well, based off what BigTuck said, why isn't this a yeast card? This sounds like I plop it and I win the game. The reason I actually have it in hops is one of the things that I've noticed in decks that don't just have diversity to where you get to have flying. And a good example would be my elf tribal deck. Mm-hmm. On a lot of elves that fly, if any. And I've noticed where I lose in that deck is because flyers will come in and beat my face.
Right.
And I can't do anything about it. And so any of the tribal decks that don't just inherently, like, obviously you're not going to include dragons.
Right.
I wouldn't even say you don't include vampires, because a lot of vampires will have flying.
I agree with you.
But like your zombies, your elves, your slivers, where you don't inherently have it, if you have a way to give everything flying, I look at that as more defense than more offense. So that's kind of why I consider a just standard card that says, hey, you get flying. It's like, okay. And some people will kind of roll their eyes because there's a card in the yeast that I'm going to talk about later that kind of does something a little bit similar, but there's a reason that I consider that one a yeast card over this one.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I agree with you.
All right. Well, my first one, and this is actually kind of where I thought you were going with it, because honestly, if this is my opening hand, I keep it. Mid game, I'm happy. Late game, I'm happy. It works way better with Sliver Queen. Doesn't do that much with First Sliver. We're talking about the Constricting Sliver.
Yeah.
5 colorless white, one of the more expensive slivers in the deck. 3/3 creature sliver. Uncommon, 45 cents. But it has this amazing text.
Right.
Sliver creatures you control have. When this creature ETBs, you may exile target creature and opponent controls until this creature leaves the battlefield. Basically O-Ring, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, correct. Exactly.
And so when it used to be a Sliver Queen deck, I would have this out, wait around. Sure, I'll make 5 slivers, exile that, exile that, exile that, exile that, exile that. With First Sliver, it's still nice because when I cascade, I maybe for one thing I casted, I could get 2 or 3 triggers off of it and maybe have some more mana left over to do it again.
Right.
But this card will just start exiling stuff left and right, and it feels so good.
I completely agree with you. This was like, when I first looked at this, I was like, 6 mana? Okay, maybe we'll talk about that in the capping. And then I read it, I was like, no, it's incredible. Again, this is the deck. This deck only wins in the red zone, right? And what prevents you from winning in the red zone? Other creatures. So we have something right here that'll be able to clear the board. I also agree with you. Where like this is a lot better with Sliver Queen at the helm. And I think like there's a lot of slivers that have very unique abilities, and I think this is definitely one of them. Just does a lot of work, man. It's just brutal. Like I don't know. It's just really good. I don't know what else to say.
Oh, man. All right. Well, BigTuck, what's your next card?
Okay, so we are going to talk about another card, which I think kind of works both ways, too. We're going to talk about Pulmonic Sliver. Again, one of the higher-end cards that also costs $7. 3 colorless, 2 white for a sliver. It's a 3/3 creature sliver from Future Sight. Yeah.
Sounds like a good song. Future Sight.
All slivers have flying, and if this creature would be put into the graveyard, you may put it on top of its owner's library instead. What? So okay. Obviously, this is a great card for this. It's also strange, like. This is where the first sliver just gets so weird and confusing, right? Because I guarantee you would like cast this, you're like, yes, I'm going to get into something great. Land ramp or counterspell I can't use right now, or more ramp slivers, right? Like it's just so interesting with that at the helm. But I do like this card too, and I think this is similar to Gale Rider Sliver, where this also could win the game, but also could prevent you from losing it, right? Like, prevents from board wipe.
Well, and kind of the cool thing, though, this is where the tech with First Sliver actually does work.
Right.
This is out, board wipe happens.
Right.
You basically stack your deck, knowing First Sliver is going to go to the command zone, you stack your deck in a way that this feeds into this goes into that, that goes into that, and basically you get to play everything out as best as you could.
Right. But it's like, again, this is why this is so insane. $7 for a card that will only ever work in one deck.
And it kind of looks like a nasty loogie that someone shot out of their nose.
But I will say it's the old art, so it immediately gets a pass off of that one. I thought I'm like moderately versed in slivers, if you will, and this was one that was like, ooh, and here we are. And
well,
I'm excited.
Where we're going to go next is a Spiny Boy. The Spined Sliver.
Yeah.
So this is a Gruul Sliver, red-green, 2/2 creature sliver, and it states whenever a sliver becomes blocked, that sliver gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each creature blocking it. So the thing that, once again, BigTuck mentioned it, the way you win is you go wide. That's the way you do it. And if you're trying to go wide, when your commander doesn't create tokens, so your go wide is like 5 or 6 slivers at a time, maybe. A Squee McGee deck could very easily, I'm going to combo block with 75 tokens, and I'll just take out the stuff. This makes it to where I would kill all those things because they are 1/1s. He starts at a 2/2. And that's assuming that I have 0 other pump sliver effects, which, let's just be honest, there's going to be at least one. At
least one, right? Yeah.
So this basically this sliver says combo blocks with other go wide decks do nothing to me.
Right.
And there are other cards in the yeast and some even in the hops and the spice that allow you to get that damage through. So it's like, cool, beef them up as big as you want. and then I'm still going to get the damage through. Something's still going to happen here, and it's going to be devastating.
And I think the other thing that's like, this is just the interesting thing with slivers is like, if this creature where it's like a 2/2 for 2 that also has this ability would be like a bomb in limited, right? Like just having all that stack. And I think that's something that you will see. And one of the reasons why slivers are very efficient and very easy to play too, because they're all effectively on curve to some extent, right? Where it's like a 1/1 flyer for 1, a 2/1 mana dork that taps for any mana, right? Like they all kind of fit on curve with their comparative to their costs, their power and toughness, and their abilities. So that's why I've seen some slivers make fringe play in other decks that make a lot of sense. Kind of few and far between. But yes, again, if you're going to be going wide against something that's even wider than you, this is the card that's going to help you win those battles for sure.
Yeah, well, and the cool thing is, like, once the blocks are declared, if you have instant speed removal or I know you're not talking about it, Cyclonic Rift.
Indeed.
I just one-shot you.
Right, yeah.
That's amazing. I just thought of that. That would be pretty, like, tech. Hey, I'm going to swing these 3 things at you. They're really scary. Okay, well, I'm going to combo block. Well, now they're going to get huge. Psych Rift.
No. But then because blocks have already been declared, it's like they all turn into the 0/1s. But how that would work is if you had one of your trample effects out. Then that would roll over them.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I left out that piece. Yes. Yep. Need a trample effect.
But still, that actually would be pretty sweet. Or a card I'm not going to talk about, but another one of the board wipes you have in here.
Oh, yeah. Well, Tuck, what's your last one?
All right, so I want to talk about this because, it's another card out of your favorite Modern Horizons. And this card's so good, and it's kind of fallen into, like, a default X, Y, and Z sort of category. We are talking about your pal, Unsettled Mariner. This card also is close to home because when I worked at Mariner, I was also unsettled, which is the company I worked at here in Kansas City. You guys can also jam a cat. We are talking about Unsettled Mariner coming in at $1.45 for Azorius. That is white blue. It's a 2/2 creature shapeshifter. It's a rare. It's a changeling. This card is every creature type. Whenever
it's a sliver.
It's sliver. It's also a hominid. Everything you can think of. Whenever you or a permanent you control becomes a target of a spell or an ability opponent controls, counter that spell or ability unless its controller pays 1. Now, that's already insane. And on rereading it, I just realized it says you, the player.
Yeah.
So this is like one of the few, like there's always like the fringe arguments of like Chameleon Colossus, Taurian Mauler that are kind of like, XYZ tribal things, right? Like if you're running out of things like, let's say, pulling things out of the hat here, allies. You need something like that. Whereas this thing, I think, actually it's kind of incredible. You talked about how there's going to be a lot of spot removal. There's going to be a lot of things like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like, hold on, what's that one? Bonfire of the Damned, where it's like target player gets dealt damage and it deals damage to all of its creatures. Those sort of things, like that 1 mana kind of starts adding up, right? And it could be the thing where the person like is about to kill you or something. Well,
that and they tried a Mazavith. Do you have any mana left?
Nope.
Sorry.
Yep. Sorry to hear it. And even
I actually have like 5 copies of this in my basement. And I'm just now thinking, like, since it's not based on the creature type, it's like I should probably jam it into other decks.
Yeah.
Like, this would probably even be decent in my Atraxa deck, just to protect my Planeswalkers.
Yeah, well, and exactly, to your point, permanent you control, like, it's really good. Damn it. All right, well, hold on to those for BigTuck. When I come over, I'm picking it up when I'm picking up my other goods that we discussed earlier. So anyways, all right. Unsettled Mariner just does tons of work in any deck that you can run it in.
Well, my last one is a card that I alluded to. I've never seen it played. No. I've always wanted to play it. And we talked about it. The way that people combat this deck, in my mind, should be spot removal, but a lot of times it'll be a board wipe. Well, what's better than coming out for one last hurrah after a board wipe with a thrilling encore?
Yeah! Look at these bits! Nailing it!
4 colorless black, instant from Battle Bond, $2.40. Quote first, welcome to the winning team. I agree, slivers are the winning team. Put onto the battlefield under your control all creature cards and all graveyards that were put there from the battlefield this turn.
It's so good.
That is so good. So good.
It's bonkers. Like, get all the end of the battlefield effects. I mean, this card, I think this card is kind of a win con in and of itself, right?
Yeah, because you got to think, someone's probably only going to board wipe once my board's out of control, and that probably means everyone else is at a medium board state. So yeah, you board wipe, and the cool thing is you don't even have to put this on the stack.
Right.
You wait for everything to resolve. It could be in step. All right, I'll do this.
Here we are.
Get
Okay,
back.
you tried to counter that. He countered you. You packed a negation. He forced a will that still went through. And here we are, right?
Clearly, you're not talking about our table.
But yes, it's insane. I think we'll talk about this in the capping. I think we talked earlier about how your graveyard isn't really a resource. I think it's gonna be.
Does that mean you're putting Marin in the deck?
Honorary Sliver Marin.
But I do think Thrilling Encore should probably see more play than it does. It does seem like a lot for 5 mana, but I mean, kind of compare that to, and I know I'm going to get roasted for this, Rise of the Dark Realms, which is 9.
Right.
You're basically paying 4 less mana, instant speed, and basically Rise could be a super late game card after people have been doing it all game, but a lot of times a board wipe when it happens, that's like the majority of what goes in the graveyard at that time. So I think for like 4 less mana, instant speed, and I just do it on the turn, I'm okay with that. But also, this is better than a Sliver Queen deck because you can hold up the mana to trick people into thinking you're going to make slivers, but do this instead.
I agree. And to your point, people run Living Death all over the place, right? And that's a symmetrical effect for everyone. So I agree with you. Thrilling Archon's awesome. Great card in this deck.
Well, now we're going to head over to the Yeast package and how this deck wins. I believe, Tuck, we are synced up on this first one. 3, 2, 1.
Cloud Shredder Sliver. More
$5. All right. So Cloud Shredder Sliver. It's Boros. That's a red-white. It's a 1/1 creature sliver. Rare. Go.
Damn it. Oh, it beat me in my own game. All right. Sliver creatures you control have flying. And that's it. Fork trails rustled, talons clicked, a low sliver streaked, a lone sliver. Jeez, I need LASIK. Streaked overhead like a jagged lightning, and the hive thundered. Oh, also, they also get haste. What?
Yeah, so that's kind of why, guys, I alluded to earlier, why Gale Rider's in the hops, but this card's in the yeast.
Yes.
Because if he comes out, yes, your slivers get flying, and they get haste.
It's bonkers.
Disgusting.
I mean, there's cards like this that see play where it's like your creatures get +2/+2. I mean, or like here's a great example: Craterhoof Behemoth, right? Like, if you're this deck, if you can get there and get there fast, you can plop this down, and if you sequence it and people hadn't drawn a board wipe or like misplayed or something like that, you play this and it's over. You have 20, 30 points of damage on the board. People have been chipping away at them over time, and it's bonkers. And also, in your pet, which is ironic because you don't even like it that much. Your pet set Modern Horizons, they had the common GD courtesy to print the old Sliver artwork, but also have the Sliver creatures you control.
Yep. Yeah, this card literally hits it on every angle.
And it's also a curve.
This is, I think this is probably one of the, I'd say this is top 5 best Sliver cards printed.
I completely agree.
You know what? I think this is better than even some of the Sliver Legends, to be frank. This does everything. I absolutely love it. Yes. Glad you picked it.
It's great.
And I'm glad I ripped one that was a foil out of my plethora of Modern Horizon stock.
Ripped.
And it was a foils.
Well, Tuck, what is your second card?
Right. So we've talked about the cast in the past, how maybe we have a bit of affinity for some spooky cards. And this one is really going to make you cower for your blankets when it covers you in darkness. Get it? Blanket cover. Cover of darkness we're talking about, friends. What colorless in a black?
Talk about an elongated bit.
It's it was subpar. It's okay. Cover of Darkness is an amazing card, and it needs a reprint like whoa. Colorless in a black for $9. As it comes into play, choose a creature type. Creatures of the chosen type have fear. They can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and or black creatures. Holy frickin' Moses. It's unreal. Like, for a 2-drop, it's completely bonkers. The reason why they probably will never reprint this is because it has the stupid word fear on it, which is a deprecated bit from Wizards. They don't do...
Really?
When was the last time you saw a reprint that had the word fear on it?
Ooh, I don't know. I'm actually kind of interested now. I might have to do a little
I'll keep
search.
whinging on this. Back when I was an Optiver, here we are. James Bond himself, Alex Webb, who definitely doesn't listen to the show, he played this in a zombie deck, and it was the first time I saw it. And I was like, I'm going to go and buy at least 10 copies of this card. At the time, I think it was like 12. And it slowly creeped down in value. But I think that fear thing is really important, right? Like, black creatures, artifact creatures and black creatures aren't known for their butts or their brawn. They're always kind of like in between. And black is fairly common, but there's going to be someone at the table who's not going to be running either of these sort of creatures or these sort of decks. You're always going to have a target for this. And again, since we can start chipping away at damage early and often, this being a 2-drop, you don't have to think about like, oh, am I going to choose crab? Am I going to choose cat? No, you're choosing slivers, and it's going to work with you the entirety of the game.
Yeah, no. And fear is one of those mechanics that you just don't see a lot. Yeah. So everyone's always like, wait, what's fear again?
Yeah, exactly. Wait, is it like the same color? Or is it like if it's black, it can't be blocked by black? Exactly.
Yeah, and at least this set had the gall to just go ahead or this card to actually print the full text, rules text on there, opposed to just saying fear.
Right.
But to that point, I am on Scryfall searching, and I'm trying to find things that are obviously not reprinted. And gosh, man, I think we're going all the way back to like Tempest, Alara. Yeah. It's
I think they said it's like this and protection from a specific color. I think they said they're like binning or something. I don't know. I think this fear got replaced by Intimidate, because then it follows the thing. So that's also a reason why this card's expensive. But it's just, what more do you want, right?
But the thing is, though, they could reprint it, because they just reprinted Shriekmaw, and Shriekmaw has fear. I just don't think they're going to do net new cards with fear.
Correct.
Anymore,
yeah, that's 100% sure. So hopefully we see reprint of this thing, because $9, it's a lot for a 2-drop, but it does work.
Yeah. All right. Well, my second one is another way that slivers just can't be blocked unless there's another sliver player out there. We're talking about a good old shifting sliver.
Yeah.
3 colorless blue for a 2/2, which is not on curve, but the ability is backbreaking. Slivers can't be blocked except by slivers. Once the last few slivers the Riptide project controlled were dead, there was nothing to keep an island from being completely overrun. So, if they've gotten rid of your Cloud Shredder, they got rid of your Gale Rider, don't worry, there's a shifting sliver in the deck, and you'll just swing in for free damage and just kill everyone.
I saw this where they had like the hexproof sliver out, and then also this, and it's like, all right, well, I guess just keep
board wipe?
Keep drawing until you get a board wipe, I guess, and it's just
and then they play the indestructible sliver, and you're just
which isn't in this deck, which is insane.
Yep, no, not in it.
It's nonsense. But yes, I think like this card among a couple others are the big sliver payoffs, right? Like these ones that are so specific, and it's not like can't be blocked except by slivers and other artifact creatures, or can't be blocked by slivers and lands or whatever. It's just black and white. You can't block it unless you happen to be playing this or some sort of bizarre changeling deck.
Yeah, no, it definitely, when you plant that definitely all eyes go to you. And it's like, how do we get rid of this right now?
Exactly, before we suffer its might.
All right, well, what is your last
All right, so this is the big boy. One of the big boys. and I've never seen this card out in the wild.
Really?
No, never. I mean, it might be in some Sliver decks here and there, but this is the most, I think this is the most, even more expensive than the Queen herself.
Well, this is also a Judge promo.
So I'll get into that, and I will get into that. Wait, is this yours or no? No. Okay, cool. So we're talking about Sliver We Are Legion. Sliver Legion is Wooburg 7/7. All Sliver creatures get +1/+1 for each other Sliver on the battlefield. Not a lot more to say here, besides the fact that I think it's ironic that every single legendary Sliver is a 7/7 for 5. Which in and of itself is enough to like bash face. So I did my research here, and you do have the Judge promo, but according to my research on TCG Player, the Future Sight non-foil version of this is $101. The Judge promo is $104. So,
this is showing TCG Player average at 180.
Right, I know. So something's potentially off here. But if that's the case, then you might as well pick up the Judge promo. So again, I think this is like, if you're actually going to earnestly build a Sliver deck, this is an auto include, right? Like you're going to have to pony it up and you're going to have to put it in here. I think of the Sliver Legends, this one's probably the worst in the command zone, right?
Yeah. I don't know, because it could be something like literally, if depending on it, you almost look at him like a Crater Hoof Behemoth.
Oh, sure.
Depending on what your board state is, if you just play him and you got like 8 Slivers, you kind of win the game.
That's a fair point. But that is,
honestly, I think the one that's the worst
is the First Sliver
in the command zone is First Sliver and one of the other lords that's in the Spice package.
Okay, cool. Yes. So anyway, it's just insane. Like, this card should not be $100. And again, it goes back to the same point I've been harping on the entire time of it's just because it's a $100 card that's only played in Sliver deck and only played in Sliver decks. Have fun, Sliver players.
All right. Well, my last yeast is a kind of stuffy dollish effect. Because you got to go wide.
Yes.
You got to attack, but people are going to block. Well, Spiteful Sliver makes sure that they get punished for it. So 2 colorless red, Modern Horizons,
of course,
coming for you, baby. Creature Sliver, 2/2. Sliver creatures you control have, whenever this creature is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target player or planeswalker.
It's really good.
The fact that they also threw planeswalkers on there too, that like gives that, you know, because you could say that's the one thing Slivers can't do is deal with planeswalkers other than attacking. Oh no, don't worry, Spiteful Sliver can do it. Yeah, it's so good because here's the thing. People are going to have to make decisions when you swing out, and if you have trample or say you have some other oppressive thing when damage happens, they're going to have to block. And it's not like you're just going to lose your creature. I'm also going to hit you in the face for how much damage your creature dealt to me. You combo block because maybe I have trample. You're going to take that damage no matter what. So you're kind of in like a lose-lose situation. And you want a Blasphemous Act.
Oh,
you're dead.
My God.
You're dead.
Whoa. Is there hidden rolling earthquake?
I mean, I should run a Blasphemous Act in here, and then I could just do it, and then I win the game.
So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna cut some other card for Blasphemous Act, bring Sliver Queen back up to the front, and now this thing can win outside of combat. Holy Moses.
Holy Moses.
That's a good one. He's out there, or was. So, until he got lost in the desert for 40 years. That's a religion reference for all you grognards out there. It's insane that this is only 3. 3 mana for this ability. That's just completely backbreaking. Man, oh man. And it's also ironic that it's also, this is probably one of the better slivers in the deck, and it's 64 cents.
Yes.
Just because psychopaths like you cracked Modern Horizon like it's going out of style.
Well, and I think the reason is because it's very under the radar.
Yes.
Because I'll be honest, so every time, guys, when I do a Brews and Builds deck and I sort the categories, if I haven't done it in the past, you guys haven't heard about it, but I always bring the deck up and I literally sort the deck by alphabetical order and I check it against my list and update it then, because I got really bad on updating some decks. This was actually in a pile in the front along with some other Sliver cards. Just sitting there, like wanting to be like, hey, this could be in the deck. And I went through and I did it and I was like, wait a minute. That should absolutely be in the deck. And I actually think I ended up cutting First Sliver's Chosen for it. The Exalted Sliver.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because it's like, I'm never going to attack with just one sliver.
Yes.
That's like, doesn't do anything. So I literally swapped those two because it's like, man, he does so much work.
Gosh.
Basically a stuffy doll or a brash... Is it brash taunter or taunting? It's the goblin. Brash something.
The new one.
Brash monkey. That funky monkey.
That's it. The brash monkey.
All right. Well, unless we got anything else to say on that,
no.
I think we're going to wrap up the East package and head over to the spicy bug ball. BigTuck, you're in my head. What did you think? I did not pick.
It was so hard because I was like, he has to choose this. And I countered it, and then I went back into it. But I got my boy. This card is too cute not to be in the deck because of only literally one other card. Is this yours?
3.
God damn it!
1.
Amiibo and Changeling. We talked about it earlier.
Yeah, that wasn't mine.
This is yours?
It wasn't.
Oh, okay. Damn it. I was at, well, okay. Oh, are you going to go for the easy way out? I can't wait. All right, so Amiibo and Changeling, 1 colorless and a blue for 1/1 creature shapeshifter, 77 cents out of Lorwyn. Changeling, the card is every creature type at all times. Target creature gains tap target creature gains all creature types until end of turns. Other tap, target creature loses all creature types until end of turns. So, the only reason I can only imagine that this is in the deck is for literally 1 card, just in case you happen to draw them both. So, this is kind of a twofer for all you playing the home game. There's another card here called Sliver Overlord. Shockingly, to everyone's amazement, it's a 7/7 for 5, which is Wooburg. That's also a legendary creature. That's a Sliver mutant. So 3, search your library for a Sliver card, reveal that card, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. But more importantly...
It's fine. Yeah.
What?
That's fine. Like, some people think that it's backbreaking and it's so great and amazing. And like, yes, tutors are always great, but to just go get a Sliver, I don't know. I'm not white hot on it for a 5-drop.
I've seen this run as the commander as opposed to other ones as well, but that deck plays a little differently. That's a little bit more like less token based. So anyways, but the big trick here that's really cute that everyone has in their Sliver deck as well is that for 3 colorless you can gain control of target Sliver. Well, guess what? This little 2-drop biatch that's a 1/1 can turn something into a Sliver and you steal it. Have fun stealing your brushes. Have fun stealing your Brea. Have some feeling your Savala Call of the Wilds. Have fun stealing. Where there's another one there where I literally just quit. What was that? I think it was Saskia. That was really upsetting. Yeah, so if you're running Sliver Overlord as your commander, go ahead and pick one of these up. Now, what's your thought on this in the deck?
Once again, it's a spice.
Yes.
So Ambioid Changeling is 100% in here for that. But I will say we do see more tribal in our meta.
Yeah.
So think of like an Edgar Markov deck. Swing, give all your vampires this. I can't let that Butcher Malakir get this trigger.
Got it.
I can stop that. So it does have a little bit of defense built into it, but 100% it's there for the cute.
for that interaction. Okay.
For just that cute interaction.
That's all I have to say about that. If you say what I think you're going to, I'm going to quit the podcast.
This could be it, folks.
Alter the Brood.
No! That's a joke, right? Is this a bit? You son of a bitch! I knew it! I intentionally... Oh, I just spilled beer all over the place.
So here's the thing.
Damn it.
The reason I have a reason it's in the spice package.
Yes, I get it. Because you wrote Sliver Queen. It makes sense.
So guys, I don't know if you guys know what Alter the Brood is. Does anyone? I'm not sure. Hold on, let me not even look at the card. I think it's an artifact. I think it costs 1.
So far,
I think it says something along the lines of if a permanent enters the battlefield under my control, each opponent takes the top card of their library and puts it into their graveyard. Hold
Amazing.
on, let me confirm. Oh my gosh, that's it. Oh, you know what? There's even flavor text. I didn't even know it had flavor text. Supplicants offer flesh and silver. flowers and blood. The altar takes what it will, eyes gleaming with unspoken promises. Ooh, I could even switch it to supplicants offer flesh and slivers, flowers and blood. There we go.
So is this what... Is this what you feel like interacting with me every week? This level of being upset?
Sometimes.
I knew it! And I was like, there's no chance he's going to choose it, so I'm not going to either, because I can't give him the dignity. And here's the problem. It's if you run Sliver Queen as your commander, it sort of makes sense. It's some weird...
It's kind of like Karametra. It sort of makes sense.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think we're turning this back into a Sliver Queen deck, but we haven't made that decision yet. It's not official.
I can't believe it, Mr. Combo. This is unreal.
Come on, guy.
I knew it was gonna happen. I knew it, but I was like, there's no chance. There's no chance.
Oh man. Well, do you have anything to say about it?
No.
Come on, talk to me about it. How do you feel about this card?
All right, fine. I'll give you this. If we do switch this over to a Sliver Queen, it makes a lot of sense because you're going to be churning this stuff out. Also, I will say that this card, and I'm not saying this is your fault, although it kind of is. Last time we talked about this card, it was less than $2. It is over $3 now.
Well, yeah, that's because of the new mono blue commander from Jumpstart.
Oh, sure, right. Because they'll say mill instead, but still,
yeah.
I still think this is your own doing. So, there are builds of this deck where your graveyard is the resource, and this is actually a premier card in that. This is also the premier Mr. Combo card, so not surprising this is in here. And that is all I have to say about that.
Oh, man. Well, guys, that's going to wrap up the Spice package.
Good Lord.
Now we're going to head into the bottle capping, and as a reminder, it's going to be big tucks and eyes, cuts, and recommendations to the deck that are under $5, under $50, and a personal recommendation with no budget. The only restriction, no mana-only lands. And I promise I won't do anything crazy to make you spill beer all over yourself again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So, my first cut is going to be Ghost Flame Sliver.
That's on the list as well. Yep.
It's a Rakdos Sliver, black-red, creature Sliver, 2/2. All slivers are colorless. I think when I put this in the deck, the meta I was in would play a lot of protection from insert color.
Oh, okay.
And so this was a way for me to kind of get around that.
Right.
But our play group doesn't really... I mean, like, I have a couple decks with swords. Like, Duff has a couple decks with swords. Or a deck with swords, but that's about it. Like, protection from colors really aren't that important in our meta. And honestly, I think from an overall Magic perspective, protection from colors really don't matter that much anymore either.
I agree. And I think the thing that you talked a lot about, like, spot removal being a problem, right? This actually opens your deck up to more of, like, the destroy target non-black, non-artifact creature sort of effects, or destroy... monocolor. I wouldn't get monocolored, but like it just doesn't seem for the slots that you have in the deck, the output of this seems very minimal compared to the input that you put into it, which is just a slot in the deck, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to add in a card. We talked about it a whole bunch, how I got to go wide, I need to do damage. Yep. Technically, Card Kingdom, it's above $5, but everywhere else it's below $5, so it counts. Yep. Did you realize that I didn't have a single sliver in this deck that gave trample?
What? Wait, we talked about that like 6 times.
Yeah, I know. No, not a single sliver in the deck gives trample.
Really?
So I need to add a horned sliver. 2 colorless green, creature sliver, 2/2. All sliver creatures have trample.
Yeah.
It's pretty basic.
Wow.
But we talked about like all these effects that I get and all the things I'm trying to do. Can't really do it if you could just chump block all day long.
And I suppose the argument could be that you have enough other evasion of like the shimmering and the other stuff, but I agree with you. The extra mana invested into this, and this is like slightly potentially easier to cast too because it's only 1 green as opposed to 2 other things. Way worth it. Like even the Cover of Darkness that we discussed doesn't help your creatures being colorless, right?
Yep.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Love the some Horn Slivers. I was kind of surprised that wasn't in there.
Yeah, I know. Well, it sounds like you're also cutting Ghost Flame Sliver.
Yeah, we're gonna get out of there.
So what are you cutting it for?
So this is a super budget build. You probably have one of these because it's also from Modern Horizons. So the way I built this was less of, well, it kind of plays both ways, right? Like I think this is going to be a card that will help you with the go wide with actual cards and also the go wide with token strategies that you kind of can go back and forth with. So this is one of Single Aaron's pet cards as well. Shout out to you. I know you don't listen to Brews and Builds, so you can also suck it. We're talking about Etchings of the Chosen. So it's 44 cents out of Modern Horizons, colorless black, white. As it comes into the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures that you control the chosen type get +1/+1. Then also pay 1, sack a creature of the chosen type. Target creature you control against indestructible until end of turn. So I know you don't run Sliver Hive Lord in here, but the thing I like about this, the way that you're running this, where if it's going to be less of a token build, is I think you need more static effects that aren't creatures, so that when you get board wiped and you get 3 slivers out, you're not out of the game. Or you can't come back from it. This also can protect against board wipes, where if you have one of the slivers that are like higher costed, you can bin one of the smaller ones or a token or whatever, even your commander, sack it, give it indestructible, and be able to bounce back faster. I've seen this deck. I've seen this card. It seems really innocuous and kind of like whatever. I'm not gonna lie to you. I've seen Aaron run this in several decks, and it just does work. Because you like play a removal spell, destroy spell. He's like, okay, you sure? Yeah, I want to get rid of this. Nope, not anymore. Block it, right? Like you talked about, there's like the single target removal. I think this would do you better if we go back to the Sliver Queen, where you have just piles of Sliver tokens lying around, as we discussed. What?
I just think it's funny that like almost every other comment that you and I have made has been like, yeah, and if we just take this deck back to Sliver Queen.
Maybe you should. I don't know.
Doing it.
I'm not doing it. I'm doing it right now. So anyway, I think the cards I chose were more static effects that weren't just based around slivers.
Sure. Well, I mean, I can appreciate that, but this is a sliver deck, some bitch, and I'm pretty sure there's actually a sliver that does something kind of like this.
Yeah. Sliver Hive Lord just gives all your stuff indestructible.
Yeah, that's true. But this actually is an interesting card. Huh.
I'm telling you, it looks like not much on the surface, but I'm telling you it does work.
Well, maybe we'll have to give it a shot.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, look at that! Sliver Queen! Oh, man. You're going to go right...
What are the odds? It could be anything.
What are the odds? No, I have to hold off until the end. Yes. We have to see all the cappings.
All
right. My under 50. I'm going to cut the Screeching Sliver. So Screeching Sliver is a single blue creature sliver, 1/1. All slivers have tap. Target player puts the top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Once again, works significantly better with a Sliver Queen build where you have piles of tokens.
Right.
So what we're going to cut it for is another card that I didn't even know existed up until like maybe a year or so ago, and then I didn't buy it because it's like, it's my sliver deck. I'm not spending money on this deck. Virulent Sliver.
Oh, is this a poison one?
Creature Sliver, 1/1. All sliver creatures have poisonous 1. Whenever a sliver deals combat damage to a player, that player gets a poison counter. A player with 10 or more poison counter loses the game. Yeah. Here's how it's different from Infect, though, everyone. Poison 1, they get the 1 poison. They still take the combat damage.
Oh,
where Infect deals damage in the form of poison.
Right.
That's where it's different. So now, and I think it could be one of those cards that kind of slides under the radar, maybe. Sure. Like, it's poisonous, but it's like, dude, you're just going to take 3 damage and get 1 poison counter. Not the end of the world. They might be like, well, I don't want to lose my creature to prevent 1 infect.
Exactly.
Okay, that's fine. I'll do it. But then later in the game, when you get out your tons of slivers and you're able to truly go wide, I think it's a fair infect card because I still have to hit you with 10 things. I can't just put down a Sliver Hive Lord. Oh, they're all 20/20 infects. Now I win the game.
I agree, and I think, but to your point, if we go back to the sliver creating idea, when you have 20 slivers, this is also similar to like the Gale Rider is so low cost for the output of it You can really put some points in. I have one of these lying around if you want to trade me for it. It's also...
we'll just trade the Mariner for it.
Oh, sold.
Done.
Yeah, I have a whole stack of slivers that have accumulated from friend of the show, Tice. Here we are. And the mystery booster that I had a guy on Facebook who was going to come and trade me a Shockland for him, and he never showed up. So that was very exciting.
Oh, there you go.
I agree. And again, this isn't as backbreaking as Triumph of the Hordes out the gates, but it kind of is if you sequence it right. So 100% up board with the virulence.
All right. Well, what's your next under 50 cut and under 50 ad?
All right. So you're going to be upset.
Oh my God! I'm not cutting Rift.
No, what? No. You need that. You need that. No. So the only reason you have this card in the deck is because you haven't either proxied or invested in the land base, right? So I'm actually going to cut.
Oh, I actually have it in the deck.
I'm going to cut Amulet of Vigor. Yeah, I know, right?
What?
Your backup favorite land card.
Hold on. I got like
you have 9.
Almost half my lands are tap lands. I have 14 lands that come in tapped.
But only 9 of them are not situationally untapped.
Sure, but the other 5, I have to have 2 basics out.
Right.
And I only have 2 of each basic.
I agree with you on that. But also, if you wanted to make this a real deck, you would either proxy or find the other lands that you have out there.
I like this deck. I don't like so much that I wouldn't even waste a $3 proxy in this deck.
Then you shouldn't waste a $22 Amulet of Vigor in here either.
But I think I already have like 1 or 2 sitting in a binder that I pulled from decks.
Because you've realized over time you don't need them. So I'm cutting this. The CMC doesn't matter, and I thought about putting in a card that we actually ironically talked about earlier. But this goes back to the board wipe recovery phase, right? So I want to put in a Patriarch's Bidding. 3 colorless black. Each player chooses a creature type. Each player returns all creature cards of a type chosen this way from the graveyard to a battlefield. $21.
$21.
Yeah, right? It's a lot. But in my opinion, this is a card where this is a card for even if you're playing against other tribes, you still win the game. This is like your win the game button, right? It's late game. You have your Gale Rider Sliver, your Sliver that gives haste. God help you. I hope you have the Cloud Shredded Sliver in the graveyard. Maybe some of those legends, maybe, right? And late enough, you just wait. You bide your time. You're down to like 5 life. People are tapped out. They're out of counter spells. Boom. Okay, I'm naming slivers. I'm going to get 20 cards back that will all deal 14 damage apiece, or whatever the case is. What do you want? Okay, 1 demon that's a 6/6. What do you want? 4 elves that are 2/2s. What do you want? Nothing, because you're not playing a tribal. And you're playing in our Sunday group, so you don't have any creatures in your graveyard because you only run 2 of them in your command zone. So so I thought about putting Living Death in here as like a pseudo board wipe. But again, the problem is that this deck is the way this deck loses is against other creature decks, right? And you're going to have to try your hardest, like we talked about destroying their creatures before they destroy you. So Living Death, in a sense, potentially could be a downfall for you, right? If they just get everything back, whatever it is. Whereas this, you're going to choose slivers and get everything back from your graveyard. And they're going to choose something else and get very little back. And
I mean, your argument for it is the same reason why you would run an Open the Vaults and an enchantment or artifact heavy deck, because I'm getting way more back than probably my 3 opponents combined.
Completely agree. And most importantly, this card does come in gold bordered, so you can pick one of those up.
Not getting that. Don't think I'm paying $21 for it either, but I do like it. It's very interesting. I like the concept. Mm-hmm. I almost think because my CMC is so low that maybe instead of this, I think I do have an extra Rise of the Dark Realm sitting in my binder downstairs. It's 4 more mana,
right, sure. But you get everything.
But I get everything, but it's more. It saves me $20.
Yes, I agree. like so. I think, and then again, like Patriarch's Bidding, Rise of the Dark Realms, whatever the one we just said.
Living Death.
Thank you. Any of these things where you can just take stuff out of graveyards direct into play. If you got to a point where someone needed to board wipe you because you're too scary, you're going to be able to bring that out and just go ham on it, right?
Yeah. And I like that you're adding more black into the deck. Since we cut some black with the Ghost Flame, that put me down to 8 total black symbols in the deck. And what I think, like, in a 5-color deck, once one color gets so small, you eventually start having to cut those lands because it just doesn't make sense. So I do like the idea of getting more black in the deck to help even that out. So now that's a very cool card. I've never heard of it.
There you go. I'm trying.
All right. No budget time.
Right.
I'm going to cut Turn Aside.
Yeah.
Turn Aside, single blue, instant counter target spell that targets a permanent you control, 20 cents. Back in the day, I thought in my head, oh, this is so amazing. Any spell that's going to target a permanent I control, Swan Song's 10 times better.
Yes, sir. I can. Wait, are you just cutting it for Swan Song?
No,
okay,
no. We're cutting it for another sliver.
Okay.
Once again, this is one of the few times, it's kind of weird. This is one of the few decks where the CMC has already been so dramatically low, and it's not like some ultra competitive deck to where it's like, I can afford to increase my CMC. It's fine. So we're increasing it for a card that I assume also sees play in Eureka. Shadow Sliver.
Ooh.
2 colorless blue. All creatures have shadow. It's a 1/1.
Oh.
35 cents.
Wait, what's the CMC on that?
3.
Wow. yeah, I think so.
I mean, I know you mentioned that I already have a lot of slivers that already have some sort of evasion, but honestly, I think I want this deck to function, whether it's with Sliver Queen or with First Sliver, to where I land a Door of Destinies type of effect. I don't have it in the deck, but a Cathar's Crusade, the Sliver Hive Lord even. Is it Hive Lord or Overlord? Which one's the +1?
That's Legion.
Legion, Sliver Legion. I land it and I have enough stuff out there that's I can kill someone right now. And I think redundancy is huge. And having 2 different slivers that give flying, one that gives trample, one that gives shadow, a card that gives fear. If I had 6, 7, 8, 9 different ways to do this, it's not I wouldn't be playing the deck right if I had the Gale Rider out and there's no flyers on the board and I just played Shadow Sliver. That's just being a bad Magic player. Right. I'm going to hold the other cards up. Then when you board wipe, okay, now I play Shadow Sliver. Oh, you board wiped again? Cloud Shredder Sliver. Oh, you board wiped again? Here's my Trample Sliver. And until I get more graveyard stuff in the deck, it's good to have 5+ options of evasion that are all very low CMC. It's not like I'm saying, hey, for 8 mana, I get evasion.
And the only person I have ever seen play Shadow in Magic in EDH is friend of the show Tice, because he's a freaking Dutch maniac. So I'll drink for that too. But I completely agree. This might as well say this is just another copy of Slivers Can Only Be Blocked by Other Slivers. That's how rare it is that you're going to see Shadow in sort of play. So especially for this also, is this a new low for your personal recommendation? 60 cents?
I think so.
It's got to be the lowest, right?
I know. Yeah.
What a pro. What a pro.
All right, man. What do you got? What are you cutting? What are you adding that you're going to make me say, I will pay $20 for your Patriarch's Bidding because this card's too expensive?
Well, you have to choose. You have to pick and choose here. So I literally wrote down your least favorite sliver. So I'm also going with Screeching Sliver because everyone plays their deck different. Same thing. Just fine. I'm going to cut it for a card that should not be $25, but is. And there's a whole cycle of this. I think this is the one that your deck needs the most. We're going to cut it for Kindred Discovery. So, 3 colors, blue. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Whenever a creature you controls of the chosen type enters the battlefield or attacks, draw a card. So what I thought about this card compared to all the other Kindred cards is every time I've seen you play this deck, whether it was Sliver Queen, First Sliver, whatever it might be, right?
No cards.
That's it. You're like, okay, boom, boom. Efficiency. Top deck, land. Here we are. You know what I mean? So I think having a card in this deck will kind of give you, and there might be some other ways. So there might be some other effects that would be similar. Where I think this deck, Slivers needs to come out fast and hard. That's also what she said. Yeah. Nailed it. But more importantly, it needs to come out fast and hard, and it can run out of gas way faster than some other tribes, right? Like vampires is a good example. Like there's so much draw in those colors, whereas now, like each and the thing that's really interesting about slivers is like each sliver that you cut for ramp, draw, like, you know,
you're hurting the tribe.
Exactly, right? You're culling the tribe, if you will. Whereas I think this card, out of all the kindred and all the kind of expensive tribal cards, this is what you want, because not only is it when it enters the battlefield you draw a card, it's also when it attacks. We talked about how it gets in the red zone and all that stuff. So if it was me, this is going to increase the curve to like maybe 2.8. But the upside of having this in the deck and being able to fill up your hand with the sliver or otherwise is going to be, with the first sliver or the sliver queen, either one of them, is really going to be gangbusters for you.
I can't believe this is $25.
So this is I think this is what's so frustrating about running tribes, right? Where it's like these cards only got printed once, and the thing that we talked about on our alternate universe podcast of how tribe, like this only came out in that one tribal set where all the decks were so good, they got bought out, and no one wants to sell these cards because they're so good, right? So there's like no market for them. Maybe Commander Legacy, but again, that's like
that's a pipe dream. Right. I mean, granted, maybe not. We saw what Double Masters gave us reprint wise. It's just for Commander Legends, we're gonna have to pay $500 a box.
Exactly. So,
no, I love to add. Honestly, what I would probably do, since we've kind of synced up on a couple of the same cuts and ads, I think I would actually probably cut the Hazoret's Monument for the Kindred to Discovery, because it's basically doing the same thing. It's just now it's on ETB opposed to only cast. Right. So then, if I did switch back to the Sliver Queen, I get it off the tokens. The whole red spells cost one less. I got 14 red pips in the deck. I think we've cut a couple, so it's not going to impact me there. So I think that's probably where I would go. Sense. So I could fit in the Shadow Sliver or the Infect Sliver, but I like it. I mean, obviously, I bought those precons, so the weird thing is, like, now I'm at that point to where some of these older cards are going to get more expensive. And it's like, I know I bought the set, and it's not like as a random, the commander sets are the commander sets. So I know I had it, but then when you moved back to town, you helped me do that filter and do that mass trade in. So now I'm like, wait, did I trade it in? Or is it in a deck somewhere? Or did we choose to keep it in the binder because it was a really good card? I don't really know now.
Just search on your inventory on Tapped Out. I'm sure all your decks are up to date there.
That'd be great if it was up to date. And what would also be great is the fact that we're at the end of the episode, and as promised, here's some details about our giveaway from our sponsor, Level 1 Game Shop. We're going to be giving away those 3 really super sweet lands and announcing them each week through the month. So today we are announcing, drumroll please, psych, no drumroll, we're going to be giving away a Hull of the Bandit Lord from Kamigawa.
Ooh, or El Baño. Hold on, give me 1 second. I don't know how this is in Spanish. It's
El Baño's bathroom. El Baño, just a thought.
Del Bendito or something like that. It's incredible in Spanish. Fuck.
Well, to enter, it's extremely simple. If you want to get that awesome card, just help promote the content that we produce. You get an entry for every interaction you do with us on social media, and by joining our Patreon. You will also announce the winner on MTG Action 4 News September 1st and social media soon after. And yes, these giveaways will be happening every single month. I get tired of saying it, so I'm going to move on to the next section. But if you loved what you heard, listened, watched, all the consumed, whether it was on YouTube, a podcast platform, leave a 5-star review, leave some feedback. That we really like the nice messages. But if you'd like to reach out to us and find out more ways you can enter into the contest, here's how you can do that. You can reach me at Mr. Combo number 5 on Twitter. All spelled out except for the 5. BigTuck, where can they sliver in to your DMs?
Ooh, nice. I am still on the Tweeterverse, coming in hot at BigTuck Tweeting.
You can reach our main account at CMD Tower on Twitter as well. You can go to our website, cmdtower.com, where we will have the deck list. BigTuck puts a great article together. Basically, if you type into the interwebs, Crypt Sliver, Might Sliver, Door of Destinies, Tower.com, you'll find us. Squee, Squee McGee, if people want to find out how to get a hold of yourself, how would they do that?
Oh, you can find me on Facebook or Instagram at Rich Chaos Records. You can find me on the Twitterverse at Dear Squee. You can email me. Preferred method of communication. It's 1995. Still love it. Keep them coming. That is dearsquee@yahoo.net. No, I'm kidding. That's dearsquee@cmdtower.com. Other than that, still, come and find me in Kansas, but at least stay 6 feet away.
He can handle all of your audio needs as long as you're 6 feet away. Does have a full studio if you are in the KC metro area. If you would like to hook up our sponsor with the orders you're already doing and let them know that you really do support these monthly giveaways, head over to level1gameshop.com, and when you place an order in the order notes, just type in CMD Tower so know that you came from The Collective. They do sell game boards, they sell the dice, they sell the play mats, the CMD Tower merch, they sell all the stuff. Umbrella, Ella, A. Another way you can support us is head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/CMD Tower. We have several different reward tiers, from as simple as that Discord access to getting the aforementioned Squee McGee coin, the forward-mentioned BigTuck Monarch token, and the Mr. Combo, reminder, Suck It token. As well as you get additional entries into the monthly giveaway. And of course, thank you again to Pink Royal for the music provided in the episode. So Tuck, I know this is a deck. When we started this whole journey, you were like, we're never going to talk about these decks. We've talked about a bunch of them, but the mysterious First Sliver, which I didn't even say why I call it mysterious. It's mysterious because it's Cascade and the deck's trash, so you don't know what kind of trash you're going to get. So how do you feel after we talked about this hot piece of garbage?
Man, it's hard.
Also what she said.
Yeah, here's the problem with slivers. It's way too easy to build them to be like the slivers deck, you know what I mean? It's very hard to pick and choose how to make it a unique slivers deck, right? So I think, put it on the counter, I think by going back to the Sliver Queen, you'll be going you will be making progress towards the way this wants to go. It's really hard, especially because I don't like slivers anyway. So but yeah, I will say, this is again, I've talked about this a bunch. Like, this actually was really fun to talk about, right? Like, it's interesting to see how slivers have evolved, like what mechanics Wizards has printed for them, which ones they've refused to. These weird sort of like ancillary ones like Fate Seal, which we didn't even get into. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what else to say. How do you feel about? Yeah, you've had this deck for a long time. Like a long time.
Yeah, like you mentioned, like me, like every other EDH player, it was one of my first 5 decks ever done. And I think in the beginning, I really enjoyed the deck. As time has gone on, I have just evolved as a Magic player, and I like more intricate decks that truly make me think. A Sliver deck does no thinking outside of, I just need to remember all the effects they give each other.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really it. And very simplistic decks, I do not have fun playing. Right. I want the theme to be a little bit more complicated. Even like my Bird of Prey deck, which we will be getting to later. Not this month, but we have a month for the Commander, or a Voltron month, so we'll be doing it then. Even that deck has some intricacies to it, to where I can do like these cool interactions and things with my opponents, and just in a unique way. To where slivers, it's really just smashy face, play as many as you can. But I will say this, I have had less fun since I put the First Sliver as the commander. I'm putting it on record. I will leave it at the article as is, but the Sliver Queen will now be the commander as of now. We're doing it.
All the monarchy.
Yeah, and I think the reason, guys, is a lot of the slivers we talked about, it's when a sliver enters a battlefield, it does this. That's more geared for the Sliver Queen. If I wanted to retool the entire deck, take out majority of the ETB stuff, and put in more pump slivers, then I think First Sliver is where you'd want to go. But just ETB slivers, nah, you got to go Sliver Queen. She's the OG. She's the best. There's a reason that a pristine copy of her is it's $220.
Lord.
I know. And is this one of the ones that you used to have at one point, and then you got rid of it or traded it?
Like when I was younger and someone had one, it was $30, and I was like, whoa, way too rich for my blood.
Well, we're gonna go ahead and head on back to the Hive, guys. So, sliver out.